where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you?
Oh man, you're
Kids were
right.
sent
God.
home from school and you didn't know when they could go back.
Forgot about that.
When your children couldn't see your parents.
God,
because
remember the
you were
toilet
afraid
paper
they could kill
shortages?
them.
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance.
I wasn't gonna watch this, but then I started watching it.
There's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts.
Thank you.
In our prayers.
Thank you.
But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice for the sacrifices the American people have made. The reality, if I may finish that.
Yeah, really, it's not about what Americans have done. That wasn't... Okay.
Everything that he
Also, I don't know what the
told
at
the
G2,
President
whatever.
told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. But that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also said to us if we did everything right, Susan, we could...
This is a much
lose
better
over
debate,
200,000
FYI.
Americans.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence.
life lost is too many, Susan. But the American people, I believe...
So we have 210,000 too many?
Have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
Why did
I'm
I
gonna
put
speak
this
up
on the
behalf
main
of
monitor?
people who have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in the front row in a Rose Garden event.
Oh no, the reverb
What
is
seemed to
just
have been a
because
super
I have it
spreader event for
loud enough
senior
for me to hear it.
administration
It's
and
being
correctional
picked up by the
officials.
microphone.
No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have
I
demonstrated...
don't even know how this is a partisan issue anymore because, like,
that when given the facts...
I don't think anyone's gonna say we did a great job.
and their neighbors and people they don't
Who's the
know.
moderator? Someone from USA Today?
The American people and their
Susan
ability
Page is her name.
to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day.
We're
we
still
surged
losing like
resources to
1,000.
New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States
That's not the question.
has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
Yes,
Barrett.
thank you. Thank you, Vice
But at
President
that,
Pence.
if I may say, that
Thank
Rose
you.
Garden
She will make coronavirus
and a great deal
illegal.
of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested
Yes.
for coronavirus. And it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is...
I mean, at least when someone talks
President
over
trusts the American
the
people
time limit, they just
to make
don't scream at
choices
each
in
other,
best
so that's a
interest of
start.
Their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just...
Also, remember this
mandates
says
to coronavirus, but
Response to
government takeover of
coronavirus?
Thank
healthcare,
you. Thank you.
As the
Green New
topic,
Deal, all government
apparently.
control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
That's
Let's talk about
okay.
respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had
I think
as a
they should
worker
have
knowing
like
you
those
didn't have
live
enough money
approval
saved
polls
up,
back,
and
but
now
instead
you're
of
standing in
having
a
like
food line
line graphs that scroll,
because
they just make the
of the
person who has the most
ineptitude
support in this
of
moment
an
have like a bigger
administration
window
that
on the
was unwilling
screen.
to speak the truth to the
So
American
at some
people.
point, you'll just get like a
So let's
giant
talk about
Kamala
caring
Harris
about the
face
American people. The
or
American
Mike
people have
Pence face.
sacrificed far too much because of the incompetence
I should be on
of
this commission.
administration. It is asking too
It'd be a
much
lot
of the
funnier.
people.
Susan, we talked
No,
about
Vice
It
this.
is asking too much of the people.
Let-
That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Also,
their
this is
parents
significantly
and
better
their
than when
children.
Tim Kaine
Kamala
debated.
Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
What's his
fine,
face?
Kamala.
Mike
No,
Pence.
no, you're Senator Harris to me.
Oh, it would just make them
For us
wide.
to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this.
I've produced
pandemic.
it from my
In recent
own
days,
body.
The president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you
Nothing
will make
is the
history
answer.
on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be.
I was gonna say, this is like
78 years old
both
on
of them.
Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old.
Hell yeah.
Already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you
I like
had a
that they have
conversation or
two
reached an
barriers.
agreement
We have like a
with President
DMZ
Trump
on this
about
debate stage.
safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move
I would
on.
also like to
Thank
go
you, but
back.
I would like to go back because the reality
Forever.
is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year.
Anyway,
We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trial, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives.
that
The reality
okay.
is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And
Yeah, I bet, but
We're
also like
continuous
how are we
undermining
supposed to distribute this
of
vaccine
confidence
in like
vaccine.
any
It's
amount of
just-
time to
it's just
300 million
unacceptable.
people
And let me also say,
minus
the reality
210,000
is when you talk
dead?
about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as
Thanks,
the
Joe.
coronavirus in 2009,
Can't
Joe
believe you
Biden
did
was vice
this.
president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything
I
possible.
can't believe his
wrong.
point is like,
And
yeah,
we
well, 2
learned
million
from
people might have died due to
They
Joe
left the
Biden, so
Strategic National
bam.
Stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we
Thank you,
still
Vice
learned
President
from it.
You didn't even answer the question.
People, I'm going to say again, can be
Vice
proud
President Pence, I'm sorry,
of
your
what
time
we
is
have
up.
done. And
What even is the question?
Thank you, Vice
Stop
President
undermining
Pence.
confidence in a vaccine.
I don't even have it
Harris,
under
Let
there.
me ask you the same question that I asked
Sure.
Vice President Pence. which
And maybe
is,
you'll actually answer
have you
it.
had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability?
it doesn't even
And if
say it.
not,
Oh,
and if
is
you
that the
win
question?
election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I like how the moderator's
So let me
busting
tell
out the
you, first
emo
of all,
hair.
The day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking
Ugh,
me to
really?
serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life.
But then the video broke up because
you
it's
know,
Zoom.
I thought about my mother, who
I thought about
came to the
disconnecting the
United
video to
States
save
at the age of 19,
bandwidth.
Gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud. She must be looking down.
Smile.
Um,
Yay.
You know, Joe and I were raised in a very similar way.
Yay.
We were raised with values that are about hard work,
Hardware.
about the
God,
value
man, I had to,
of
like,
public service,
Spent
and
all
about
day
the
setting up an
fighting for the
electrophysiology
dignity
rig.
of all people. And
I had the
think Joe
weirdest
asked me to
tech
serve
problem
with
I
him
had to
because,
solve.
You know, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created
Oh,
models
can
of
I
innovation
put like a
for law
drawly
enforcement,
whiteboard on this? Is that a
reform,
thing I
criminal
have the
justice
ability to
system.
do
I
on
was
XSplit?
elected, the first
My
woman of color
plugins.
and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran
audio
the second largest
mixer,
Department of Justice in the United States.
whiteboard.
Second only to the United
Apparently
States
have that
Department of
installed.
Justice. And there I took on everything from
I don't know how to
transnational
use it.
criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners, to for-profit
tools.
colleges that were taking advantage of that.
My plugins.
And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black
Apparently
woman
have
elected
whiteboard
to the
installed, but I
United
don't know how to
States
use
Senate. I
it.
serve
I'm
on the
assuming
Senate
you
Intelligence Committee, where I've
add
been in
source.
regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and
General
hotspots
widgets,
around the world.
whiteboard.
I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers. in
Right
our-
click to view
in war
instructions.
zones.
Okay.
And I think Joe has asked me to
How
serve
do
with
I-
him because he knows that we share.
I get
we
it.
share a purpose, which is about lifting up the American
Check the lock
people.
position
And
box.
after the 4 years that
Did I
we
get the
have seen
vaccine?
Donald Trump unify
Yeah,
our country
scientists tell me
around
to, sure.
Our common values and principles.
Thank you,
I-
Senator.
oh, there we
Harris.
go.
You know, neither President Trump nor
Cannot
Vice President
undo that,
Biden has
though.
released a sort of
How do you
detailed
erase?
health information
Do you
that had
just
become the
not-
modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to
Yeah, I
the
remember. I was there.
Is this information voters deserve to know?
No.
Vice President Pence.
Voters don't deserve anything.
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers. And
No, stop moving.
for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue.
Ah,
The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that. But I'm
What's
just
the question?
extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern.
you're welcome.
And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call,
I want to congratulate you
on the historic
to not
nature
be
of
vice
the
president.
nomination.
Bam.
I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling.
I didn't expect to be back on the stage, actually.
The reality is, we've got an election before the
You
American.
know, oh wait, I
people.
can.
It's the-
Oh no! Why is there no
Mistakes
undo
have been
button?
made.
Thank
I
you,
think the
thank you,
choice
Vice
has never
President
been
Pence.
clear.
I want to.
Oh, escape apparently clears it.
Respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Sure.
Absolutely, and that's why Joe
Why not?
Biden has
I don't
been
care.
so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes.
No!
We now know because of great
Stop moving.
investigative journalism that
I'm
Donald
trying to
Trump paid
d-
$750
sunglasses.
in
Stop.
taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000?" And it was like, "No, $750." We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt
He's in death?
for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to.
Okay, let me
because
make a
the
note.
American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions.
Why
and
can't-
is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over
Okay.
many, many years.
Sorry,
The one
these
thing
dollar
we all know
signs should
about
be in
Joe,
there.
He puts
Made a
it
note.
all out there.
Fun fact.
He is honest, he is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been
Thank-
about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I
God,
respect
like
the
every
fact
time
that
they have the
you
moderator
for
shot, it just looked
47
like they're in
years of public life.
space.
I respect your
Either this one or the
service as well.
presidential debate.
The American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes,
Prove it.
payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands. of
Stop
American
moving.
jobs.
I'm just
And the president said those.
mad
were
about that more than
public
anything else.
Not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can.
Binders
use
full
if
of
there's the law
disclosures.
Allows, but The distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years
Oh, God.
in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you,
And
Vice
turned
President.
this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back
Sir, you
regulations,
didn't-
unleashing
Thank you,
American
Vice President.
energy, fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's
Thank you,
on the
Vice
line
President.
if
Yes.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a
in
good
white.
segue into our third.
No, I'm
debate,
trying to draw
which
this tie.
is about the economy.
Man, I don't
This
know how
has
to
been
erase in
another
this.
aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined
Oh my
to
God, it's
7.9%
Jesus.
in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos,
Oh,
blacks, and
There we go. Now it's
Senator
space.
Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations.
Why is there a
economists
stick in the
warn that it
water?
will curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker.
Were they
and the
not
American
supposed to
family.
sit?
On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he
Also the
passed
stock
a
market.
tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a
Oh, it's weird Pence
$2
came with a
trillion
yellow
deficit
tie.
that
That's
the
certainly a
American people are
choice.
gonna have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump
Man,
said
this
he would do. I
whiteboard thing
remember
is
hearing about
awful.
some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable
Sorry, I'm not
energy.
implying he has a giant
Joe
tumor. I
is going
just
to invest that
don't
money
like this
in
drawing
what
app.
we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science. And
I don't
invested
believe in
in
science, and
research
I'm science.
development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If
Yay.
you come from a
Oh,
family
already
that makes less
graduated.
than $125,000, you'll go to a public university.
For example, if you want to
free.
take over as the person who's
And
falling
across
down
the
on
board,
closed
we'll make
captioning
sure
here,
that if you have student loan debt,
That could be
it's
you.
about $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you,
You're
Senator
welcome.
Harris.
Thank you.
Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. So when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hard-working Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000 following.
Wait, do I have to have more
tax
babies?
cuts.
Is that why I'm not
But
making
America,
money?
you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes.
Yay.
It's really remarkable to think. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal.
I want to bury it
which
with
you were one of
mud,
the original
specifically.
co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban
Good.
fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden
Tired of
wants
drinking
to go on
gas.
an economic surrender to China. That when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot. With 4 more years of growth
Thank you,
and
sir.
opportunity,
Thank you.
4 more years.
Stop
of
moving. I
President
want
Donald
to just.
Trump.
No.
2021
I,
is the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
There's no erase
Well, I
function in
mean,
this.
we saw enough of it in last week's
You can only
debate, but
clear
I
the
think
whole
this is
thing.
supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000
He said
a
he's going to
year.
repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, it'd
I'm speaking.
be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family
Oh, man.
$2,000 in a tax break every single year.
That's-
The expressions are
that is
killing me.
absolutely not true. That
Is he
tax
only
bill-
cutting? Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish.
I've tried
we can
Control
have a
Z. It does not do
conversation, okay?
anything.
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that.
No, that's
Joe
too bad.
Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was
Pence, line your face
responsible
up.
for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And
Also, I
now
don't think like
this
Joe
Trump
Biden did
Pence
anything about that,
administration
but
wants
like
to take
whatever.
credit. When they rode the
Just saying like, oh well, the
of Joe
Obama
Biden's
administration did
success
this.
for
Joe
the
Biden
economy that they
specifically
had
did
at
that.
the
Like, no, I
beginning
don't
of
think
their
he
term. Of course, now the economy is
did a
complete
whole lot,
disaster.
but whatever.
But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump,
Burp, burp.
who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden,
Gotta put your
who was responsible
Mouth there.
with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital
Pence,
bills they
move.
could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald
Get-
Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of
Thank you, Senator
Senator-
the Affordable Care Act.
Senator
which means
Boozman.
that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions, and I just
I'd
think
vote
it's
for
very
Senator
important.
Boozman.
Yes,
And it's
but we need
important
to give Vice President.
I'd just like to, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing
Nonsense.
condition,
Thank you.
I don't love
they're
anyone
coming
with
for
pre-existing
you.
conditions.
If
I'm
you are
sorry.
under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for
Just
you.
don't want
Senator
anything to do
Harris,
with
thank
you.
You're
Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. President Trump and I have a plan.
It's so irritating. I just want my
Protect
face.
pre-existing conditions for every
I can't undraw anything, and I can't erase it.
Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but
So-
you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion...
I mean, not within 4 years.
Your newspaper, USA Today, said, really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation,
Yes.
banning fracking,
That-
abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy,
Hell yeah.
economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump.
I want you to step on American energy.
The V-shaped decline that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President.
Crush
Let's
me
begin
with your
Vice
solar
President
panels.
To a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you.
Why haven't you lined
This
up with
year
my
we've seen
face?
record-setting hurricanes in the south. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen
God, I can't believe we're that
record-setting
far in the Greek
wildfires
alphabet
in the
already.
West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes
Bigger,
harder,
hotter, and given these
stronger,
hurricanes
and more
even bigger
dangerous?
titties?
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes for you, Mike Pence.
Thank you, sir.
Yes!
Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and
Nailed
on
it.
conservation. According to all of the best
No.
estimates, our
Get
air
back.
and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. And our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act, the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. The issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us
Like
back
dueling
in the Paris
Picassos.
Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase
You
the
wish.
costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs.
Literally.
And President Trump and I believe that the
That's
progress
right.
that
They're
we
gonna
have
drop a
made
turbine on
in a
'em.
cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation. And we've done it through natural gas and fracking.
Oh,
which,
wait,
Senator,
not like
the
that.
American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and
Oh man, I actually know what I was gonna write
and
here.
so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor
But
Gavin
they're
Newsom
federal
from the East Coast
lands.
agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National
Hurricane
Oceanic
ocean
Administration
management.
tells us that actually, as
Thank
difficult
you.
as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than
Thank
there
you.
were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
President Pence,
use
I'm sorry, your time
hurricanes
is
and
up.
wildfire to try and
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President
goods of
Pence.
a green.
No,
new deal.
really, thank you.
And President Trump and I are going to always put
Thank you.
American jobs
Thank
and
you.
American workers first.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support.
Oh, why is there a line there now?
But if you
Damn.
look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact.
Why not?
That is a fact. I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm,
Oh, I thought like
has said
his
he's
economic
7
plan?
million more
Movies.
than Donald Trump's.
That's not what he
And
said.
part
She
of
said.
those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be
Oh no, it doesn't say no
in
anymore.
renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science.
I don't know what to
And
write
Joe's
here.
plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So
Technically,
let's
by
talk about who
definition,
is
science
prepared to
just
lead our country
makes
over
very
the course of the
educated
next
guesses,
4
and we
years
don't really
on
know
what is
anything,
an
but
existential threat
probably not the
to
point.
us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden
Not the
said
answer.
twice in the
That's
debate
not the
last week
question.
that on
Okay.
day one, he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief for the average family of four across America. And with regard to banning,
And they're going to have to pay the money back.
look at the record.
Everyone
You
cuts a
yourself
check
said
to
repeatedly
government
that
for
you would ban
$2
fracking.
grand.
First Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal.
Oh God, my
Joe
blinds.
Biden denied the Green New Deal. Susan, thank you for pointing out. The Green New Deal is on their campaign website, and as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment.
And we also always hated
We've made
Paris.
great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American
God,
businesses
every
and
single
American
political
families.
debate is
Joe
just
Biden
like,
wants us to
Thank you, Vice
retrofit
you're going to do this.
4
No, I'm
million
not. Yeah, you are.
buildings.
Okay.
It makes no sense. It will cost
Just so
jobs.
irritating.
President Trump
Thank you,
is gonna
Vice
put
President.
America
Fact
first,
checking. Anyone,
jobs first,
please.
and take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank
But
you, Vice
you know, on
President.
the issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
let's talk about that. The vice president earlier.
Let's talk about
referred
jobs.
to
They suck anyway.
what he thinks is an accomplishment. The president.
Honestly, I didn't even intend to watch this until I turned it on. I was like, yeah, I could just draw over it.
What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other president.
Line up with the face.
And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know. I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond because then I want to move on.
Well, I'd love to respond. Look,
I love to respond. It's my job. I love responding.
Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China through over the last several decades.
What?
And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000 manufacturing jobs created. And that's exactly the kind
Thank
of
you,
growth that we
Mr. Vice
continue to see
President.
as we bring our nation through
Thank you, Vice
this
President.
pandemic. Your
Mr.
Green New
Thank you,
Deal, your
Vice
massive
President
new
Pence.
mandates, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I'd like
Susan,
to,
I just need to respond very briefly,
15
please.
seconds. and-
Thank you, thank you.
Who determines, like, no, 15
Joe
seconds, that's what
Biden
it's worth.
Is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
I'd like to talk about.
Let's set the record straight. American cars are crap. Anyway, continue.
We have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea.
Well, it's
And
still
in a
Pence
video
and still
tonight,
Harris. That checks
President
out.
Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan.
Webster's dictionary
Before
defines
I
enemies.
leave that,
Oh,
let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President
so we
Trump
made
fought
NAFTA and gave it a new
to
name.
renegotiate NAFTA. The
Yay.
United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know. Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers.
The United
It was a
States
huge
Master
win
Chief
for
Alliance. I'm
American
telling
farmers,
you.
especially dairy in the upper
Who's gonna play me
Midwest.
on Blood
But
Gulch?
Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. The American people deserve to know that. It's probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019. More liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is
Pause.
and President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear.
What was the answer? This isn't. Oh,
China and the World Health Organization did not place.
I was wondering where the thing is.
They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February.
I don't know what Kamala's thinking.
Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the
I
wake
haven't
of
figured it out
Joe
yet.
Biden's cheerleading for China. President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it
Thank you,
was
Vice
xenophobic.
President Pence.
But President Trump has
Vice President
stood
Pence,
up
your
to
time is
China.
up.
We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We need
want
Kamala to
improve the
line back
relationship,
up.
but We're going to level the playing field, and we're going to hold
Vice President
China
Pence.
accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of
Man, this
disease
black flag
experts
recreation
that
is
President
not coming out
Obama
well.
And Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen.
Let's
They
just
pulled them out.
undo this.
We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession. And the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable
Pew?
research firm,
That's what I think about our standing. It
has done an
stinks.
analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've
Oh
seen
no,
strains
that's
with our traditional
red.
allies.
It was supposed to be gray.
What is your definition of the role of American leadership?
Webster's defines American dictionary.
So, you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. You got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, you got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check.
And keep them closer than
But
your
what we've
friends, in
seen
fact,
with Donald
as a
Trump
wise man once said,
is
totally
that
not from a film.
He has betrayed our friends and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So,
Oh, is this where they're going to
Russia-
bring
I
up
serve
Hunter
on the
Biden?
Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He has walked away from agreements. You can look at the
Man, I wish this
nuclear
tracked
deal,
on it
which now has
automatically
put us in a
somehow.
position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President, can somebody give you a chance to respond?
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they did. We've stood strong with our allies.
Well, that'll
But
save
we've been
200,000.
demanding. NATO is now
Oh.
contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed
So they
the
captured a
ISIS
lot of
battlefield
empty space.
and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, the parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, two of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. Breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American.
Yeah, I kind of feel like
President Donald Trump had been president. They believe Kayla
some of the
would be
writing
president
is just
today.
writing
Vice
for
But we destroyed the ISIS caliphate.
the sake of
And
looking
we
like you're
talk
doing
about
something.
re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. The last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President.
terrorism. President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President.
Thank you, Vice
And
President.
Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice President.
harm
Thank
to
you, Vice
Americans.
President.
President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President.
Thank you,
America
Vice
is
President.
safer
Thank you.
Donald Trump will never have
Thank you, Vice President
to take
Pence.
action.
No,
I would like to
really.
give Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length, because of course there are other topics we want to talk
But
about.
I would like to continue.
Yes, please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry.
Because I'm a prosecutor and that's my job.
What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because of course, you know, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero. And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is?
No. Webster's defines a bounty as...
On your head, and they will pay it if you are killed.
Oh.
Donald Trump
Sorry, I thought we were talking about toilet paper.
Vladimir Putin, and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
Joe Biden would, but Joe Biden would hold
Thank you,
Russia to
Mr. Vice
account for any threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well, and I want to make sure we have a chance.
I take it back, it's not.
Look, she has...
15 seconds, because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep...
that. Look.
Well, I'm sorry, Vice President,
Look,
but you've had more time than she's had so
The
far.
slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son
Pence.
is a captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy.
Oh, its hand's
I
way
can
too
assure
small.
all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
But
Let
Thank
me
you,
also
Vice
say-
President.
Thank you,
President-
Vice President.
Susan,
Vice
the
President
American people
Pence, I
deserve to
didn't,
know.
Vice President
that-
Pence, I did not, excuse me,
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Your
and Trump-
campaigns.
Webster's defines 15 seconds
The
as...
Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you,
Go right
which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court.
Oh, God, it's still
On Monday,
going.
the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that.
Thank you for the question, but I'm going to specifically not answer
American
this
people
one.
deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate. And Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable. But with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. And she's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is...
Are they putting the
that
kids
next
on the
week,
bench?
Unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing.
Sorry, subtitles, you're gonna have to eat it.
That we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett...
I think
was
we should
being
bring back
confirmed
old-timey
before the
anti-Catholic
appeals,
racism.
expressed concern that
I think that'll be in
dogma
vogue
of
now.
faith lived loudly in
I can't support Joe Biden, he's taking orders from the Pope.
Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views. And
Thank you.
pro-life views.
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
at the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith. And
We both love to get high.
that we would
Oh man,
knock
imagine.
anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic. As
Too
president
many,
of
if
the
you
United
ask me.
States. On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And you know,
Oh my God, it's
before
Jeb
the
Bush.
conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally
Wait,
in
why
the
did I-
midst of a public health pandemic, when over 200,000
Why did I cover up the M just to
people
put the
have
M
died,
back?
and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald
Whatever.
Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means
What?
that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage. It means that if you're under the age of 26, you
That's a
can't
camera.
stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public
Thank you,
option
Senator.
or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator.
That's true leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration is supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was
Transparent my
one of the toughest nuts
butt.
to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration
That's not
protect Americans
transparent.
with
Screw this
pre-existing conditions
fence.
to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan, but let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as Vice President for the President who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth.
I think we should kill people
They
after.
want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood
I
in
mean,
America.
why not?
Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States. But,
I mean, it's pretty
we'll
obvious.
continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years. If you
Yeah, and before that it didn't
This
have
is a
9
classic
seats.
case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know if Judge Amy Coney
Hey, look at Fit. Look at lined up.
Court of the United
Hey,
States, are you
oh.
and Joe Biden, if
Hey,
someone wins this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more.
Oh, man.
In 1864.
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr.
Yes,
Vice President, I'm
please.
speaking.
Webster's defines the question at, oh.
In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham,
Martin Van Buren.
Abraham
Oh.
Lincoln was up for re-election. And it was 27 days before the election. And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court.
What did he
Abraham
do?
Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said,
He cut down that
Not
cherry
right.
tree. Nope, didn't say Cortana.
"People
Thanks for
deserve to
searching
make a
that, though.
decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land." And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now. And it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you,
And the
Senator
American
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about
You
packing.
once
Come
again
on.
gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
The
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice
I gotta
Somehow?
tell you, people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket come November the 3rd.
I specifically hate the Supreme Court and everyone on it. Sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the
Please.
pack. Yeah, I'm about to. So, the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional
Can you
organizations
please
and found to
face the
not
thing,
competent,
Mike?
are substandard.
Please.
And do you know that of the 50 people
Please line up.
who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So the American people,
Thank
maybe
you.
the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question.
Thank you,
But I think
thank
the
you.
American people know.
Are we even
Thank you,
having
Vice President.
another debate?
In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old...
Wait, why did I put
subject
these
of
here? These
brutal
obviously don't line up with the
kill
face at
After
all.
police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun
trying to
registered
make
him to fire a shot, which
earpods,
wounded an
and
officer.
I realized this
The
is not
officers
where
then
his
fired
ears
more than
are.
20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense.
Your ear is
Some of
not
them
here.
have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris,
How
in
do
the
I
case
undo
of
this?
Breonna Taylor,
You
was
can't.
justice
I
done?
can't. Ugh.
You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with Brianna's mother, Tamika Palmer. And her
Ugh,
family.
whatever. It's too late. I've already committed to
Her
it.
family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street, so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken unjustifiably and tragically and violently. And it brings me to, you know, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country, of every race, of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those.
Do I have Helvetica in this?
And I believe strongly
No, I guess
that,
Ariel's
first of
gonna
all,
have to
we
do.
are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about.
And I'm Joe Biden.
Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that.
That's why
We
we're
will
outlawing
require a
karate.
national register for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform, get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and
Thank
we
you.
will decriminalize marijuana, and
Thank
we
you,
will.
Senator.
Hell, I knew I'd do this for a reason.
Those who have
Thank you,
been
Senator.
convicted of marijuana. This is
Thank
the
you,
time
Senator
for
Harris.
leadership on a tragic
Long
tragedy
payoff.
Senator Harris,
of
your time is
unarmed
up.
black people in America. who
Thank
have
you,
been killed.
Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think, look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. And justice will be served.
Probably not.
But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. It was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying.
I've heard of heat treatments, but this is
I must
ridiculous.
tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist, and that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know who puts on the uniform of law
There's a fly in his head.
that President Trump and
Wait,
I
what?
stand with you. And it is remarkable
What?
that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform
I'm so
bill,
confused.
brought together a group of Republicans.
What is happening?
Senator Harris, you got up and walked.
I
out
want her
of
to
the
be
room.
like, Mr. Vice President, there's a fly in your head.
Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American
Thank you, Vice
neighbors and
President.
all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice
That's
always
really
stand with law
weird.
enforcement, and we'll do what we've done
Vice
from day
President Pence,
one, and
thank
that is
you. Your time
improve
is
the
up.
lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice
Record
President.
unemployment.
Also,
record
Vice President,
investments in
you have a
education,
fly.
Fight for school
Thank you.
choice for all of our members.
Thank you, Vice
I'd
President.
like to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who has personally prosecuted everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I am the only
Not
one on
enough.
this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans.
It's still there. It's just crawling down.
We are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million
This is so
Americans
weird.
and refused to condemn white supremacists.
No.
And
Okay, I watched the
it
debate,
wasn't
Mike.
like he
Don't.
didn't have a chance. He didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by. And this is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He called
Here's your
Mexicans
entomology
rapists
badge.
and criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. He, on the issue of Charlottesville,
God, remember
where people
2017?
were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice.
Oh, is he gone?
where
No.
A young woman was killed. And on the
you
other
think it's
side,
gonna
there
land
were
on
neo-Nazis carrying
Harris?
tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic.
Having a good luau.
And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together
Senator Harris.
and recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we
I was
all
wondering
have
if
so
I
much
tried to
more in
draw a
common
hand
than what
on
separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you
Kamala's
a
side,
minute.
if that's just gonna look
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much.
really crummy.
You know,
I
I think
shouldn't
this is
even
one
bother.
of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan. Is that you
The ad
selectively
breaks,
let
am I right?
Senator Harris comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle.
Well, also her skin
Senator Harris
tone is
convened
officially
the
like
other day that after the
orange,
president
so
made
have
comments
fun.
about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so
She's now like a
repeatedly.
Simpsons
You're
Muppet.
concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of
Also,
the American people.
let's just say
We
this
didn't
is how
talk about
hands
having
work.
Personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your records.
Thank you.
I
Oh
really need
wait,
to
no,
make
she has
this point.
sleeves. Sorry.
When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney
Thank you.
General of California,
Thank you,
increased
Vice President.
the disproportionate incarceration of
Thank you.
blacks in California.
Thank you.
You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to
you.
pass the First Step Back on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record
Thank
speaks
you,
for
Vice
itself.
President.
President
Thank
Trump and I
you,
fought
Vice
for
President.
criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President.
Thank
for
you.
educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you,
members.
sir.
And we'll do it for 4
Thank you.
Thank
you. know, There's
you.
no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight. and that
Thanking
is the
Mr. Vice
election
President.
But
itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of
I
time.
appreciate that. First of all,
Where'd the fly go?
having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration
I
has
found
failed
it.
to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holds,
Thank you.
not only,
Thank you, Senator.
I would
Harris.
like to go through.
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about.
Also,
the
I'm going to
election.
ban
I
jujitsu.
want to talk about
and
the connection
MMA
between what Joe
specifically.
and I would do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a
I believe
requirement
Justin
that there would be
TV
a
did that
training for
first,
law
sorry.
enforcement on implicit bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
that's
And I'd
too
like
thick.
to pose the
Whatever.
first, I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are particularly proud of
Can you please line back
the
up
coalition that we've built.
my face that I drew? I
We've
spent a
probably
lot of
one
time
the
on it. Thank
broadest
you.
coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have
See,
the
Pence
support
almost
of
always lines up, except the iPod is like screwed.
Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals.
There's no way
retired
that's ever
generals,
fitting.
And former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy.
Who's your favorite
to fight for
character?
the
Mine is the
integrity
tie.
of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American
God, look how perfectly he lines up, though.
democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote.
Smoke weed
Vote,
every day.
vote
Oh, wait,
early.
no.
Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision.
Who even goes
about
to
what will
websites
be
instead of like
the course of
Googling
our
them?
country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million
AOL
people,
keyword Joe.
he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's
Trump gave a link to register. That was dead.
that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence.
It's almost
President
quaint
Trump has
considering
several
the
times
last
refused
debate.
to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald
Look, she lines up.
has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American.
Why every question is literally not, why is it okay that 200,000 people died of COVID,
We
is
stood
beyond
with the
me.
movement of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans
Like,
has only grown stronger. in the last
Sorry,
few
but
years. When you talk about accepting the outcome,
none of this even rates.
I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing.
I mean, they spent like a few months. God, remember when the Green Party had that gigantic fundraiser for all the recounts and literally nothing changed?
I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the
Smoked a
Congress
J.
tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud.
Why is it so
We have a free
difficult
and
to
fair
just
election.
say,
We know we're going to have confidence in it,
like,
and I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more
you know,
I've
like every
I've
other
asked-
president
I've heard
ever,
all the
we are
questions
going
I've
to
asked.
hand over the
But for
keys
the
to the
final
White House.
question
Okay.
today, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state.
My favorite food is
to write
pizza.
essays
What's
about
the
what
fake
they
candidate's
would
favorite
like to
food and
ask.
why?
And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's
Who?
an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote,
Did you know that
"When I
SOHCAHTOA
watch
means the cosine, sine, and
all I
tangent
see
thing? Okay,
is
thanks.
arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are two candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down.
Yeah,
If our
welcome to
leaders
politics,
can't get
kid.
along, how are the citizens supposed to get along? And then she added, your examples could make all the difference to bring us together.
Ugh, God.
So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute
Vomit.
and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life.
I commend you for getting to
started,
8th grade. It's
following the news when I was very
not
young.
easy.
And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States. One very liberal, one very conservative. But what's been learned since her passing is the two of them and their families were the very closest of friends. I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument.
That's right. We're making debates daily.
Always there for one another.
Under my administration.
We've especially learned that
Thank you,
through
Mr.
the
Vice President.
difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I'm
First of all, what is your name?
and when I hear her words, when I hear your words,
Second of all, I don't know.
Thank you
Just
for his
study
right,
for tests,
because
kid. Don't talk
it
to
is
me.
that perspective on who we are and who we should be. That is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after
Not in general,
the
to
we
clarify.
talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe
Brecklin?
has a long-standing reputation of working across
Is that
the
his
aisle
name, really?
and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity.
Physically,
You have
look
to
at
know
his
Joe's
guns.
story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future,
answer.
I do believe the future
To be
is bright.
fair.
And it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have
Oh
the
God, don't
ability
make me
through
engage
your
this
work
election.
and through
Haven't even met its
eventually your vote
family.
Thank you,
to
Senator
determine
Harris.
the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Wait, is that it?
We want to thank
Did I make
also
it?
the University of Utah for
Did I
its
live?
hospitality, and most of all, our thanks to all the Americans.
Do you
who
think
watched
love can
this
bloom on the political battlefield?
Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second
And
presidential
everyone,
debate
the end.
is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us then.
Are we still having that? Like, isn't one of the candidates still infected with COVID? That seems a bad idea for a town hall format. Yeah, that was a much better debate, which is to say it was
The Republican and
not
Democratic
exciting.
candidates for vice president being
So,
greeted
like,
there
good job.
by their spouses. Those two candidates laid out very different visions of the future. And this was a debate that was very different from the people.
Hi, this is me waving.
But tonight's debate, even though it hit on topics like the coronavirus pandemic and President Trump's refusal to promise to abide by the election results, healthcare, and the environment, also left a lot of questions unanswered. A lot of the questions posed by moderator Susan Page did not get answered by those two candidates. Well, we'll talk about all of that.
My layout's
more on
not gonna
this special
fit
report
anymore.
from the Washington Post. I'm Libby Casey. And with
God,
us,
yeah, that
we have
fly
Rachel
was
Shaw,
so weird.
Rhonda Colvin, Capitol Hill reporter, James Homan, national political.
Oh God, who are you?
Trump, national correspondent. Welcome to you all. Rhonda, let's start with you. Primary takeaways of this one and only vice presidential debate of the 2020 election.
Well, I'm not wearing
You
pants.
are writing
Oh,
something you just
it's not the
said,
work at home
and
guy.
They both kind of skirted around some of the questions that the moderator had for them.
They squirted
That
around
shows
the
that
questions?
Both of these contenders came with their own agenda tonight. They knew they had to be that person out for their ticket because this is really the last opportunity for both of them to be on the national stage. Sure, they will go on to campaign and
I mean, I guess
do other
this
things,
is-
but this was the one moment tonight that the national audience is looking at them. And
Just
then,
have this part.
As far as we know, this may actually be the last debate. We still are a little bit uncertain about next week's debate with the
Womp,
two
womp.
presidential candidates.
There's
So I
already a
think
Twitter
that
account
these
for the
two
Pence
candidates,
fly.
they wanted to make sure that their messages were heard and they used all of their time.
Oh,
to
now
do
it just
that.
says
I think
Pence, Harris,
honestly,
and
one
I'm
of
Hun.
The biggest takeaways for me is the optics of all of this. The split screen image of the two candidates you saw.
You mean
on
like this?
television when they disagreed with
Oh.
what the other one was saying. You saw, Kamala Harris kind of smile when she found something to be absurd when
When she found something to be funny, as is customary for human beings, I understand.
Team's response to it. So I think the optics of this, they were pretty interesting to watch, and body language is a very, very important part of debates. If you go back to the very first televised debate in
The very
1960
first
with
debate
Nixon and
ever
Kennedy, that
between
really
Socrates
changed
and,
the game because people saw
Jesus.
him on television, saw his body language. He looked comfortable, whereas Nixon did not. So it goes a long way, and I
That's
think
it, I'm
we're
voting for
gonna do a
Nixon.
story tomorrow about this.
Philip Bump, let's go to you for more on how these two candidates came across. They both set out tonight to show that they were supportive of the candidate.
Marion, you make me put on a dress shirt for
But
this.
They also had to show the American public.
Now
that
it's just
they
gonna
were
say
wrong
mother
vice
in the
presidential
corner.
Candidates, because both of the
Oh, it doesn't even
presidential
say-
candidates are in their 70s, and of course, one of them is battling the coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, the moderator, Susan Page, actually asked a question which is meant to get at the subtext of what you just said, which is, what happens if the person on the top of the ticket is incapacitated or dies while you are serving as vice president? Neither vice presidential candidate, for probably obvious reasons, was particularly eager to raise that subject, to talk about whether or not they'd actually spoken with the
Great.
person at the top of the ticket about what would happen under those circumstances. Obviously, for Vice President Pence, there is
Well,
a newfound salience to the question given the events of the past
That
week.
was the
But yeah,
vice
I mean, this
presidential
it
debate,
is
which
not
was.
often that a vice presidential debate has lingering in the background this
It
sense
was.
of, okay, what if? I mean, obviously, when Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, they were all fairly young.
They all
when they
debate
were serving in the presidency.
at
It was
once,
less likely that this
like
would
Danganronpa.
come up. But this is where we are, and neither one of them really seem to want to talk about it very much.
James, let's pick up on that. A lot unanswered here by both candidates, but Mike Pence especially dodged a lot of questions tonight and wasn't pressed on them by moderator
God.
Susan Page.
he really was not pressed. It always felt, Libby, like he was a question behind because he was trying to catch up and he wanted to kind of have the last word on almost everything. And so it didn't feel like until the very end when he was engaging with the question from the 8th grader that he was actually substantively engaging.
Yeah, but also who wants to talk to 8th graders?
I think that there was a kind of there was a gendered dynamic there that was sort of striking. And he avoided kind of owning up to a lot of stuff about the record. He made a lot of sort of
Also,
comments
like,
for anyone who follows this stuff closely, saying the president's been fully
I guess
transparent,
Biden has a very
about
quick
his health,
social media
saying,
team.
you know, that the Biden
'Cause,
plan is plagiarizing the Trump
Man, the
approach to
fly is-
coronavirus, which isn't true.
It's gonna be
There's a
what
lot
we're
of
only talking
statements
about
like that.
tomorrow. Like, everyone's gonna have forgotten about any of the content.
But he said it in kind of a confident way.
Just like, hey, remember that fly?
And,
Yes?
and that's why, by the
Okay,
way,
man, this guy has a
really, I don't
gigantic
see
face.
any exchanges
Or at
there,
least a very large head.
including Kamala
And I
Harris
think that's
refusing to
probably
answer
just like the
about
beard
court
on his
packing
jowls.
is changing the trajectory of this race. Obviously, a lot can still happen in the final
But
month.
still.
There's a lot of unknowns, but there was no moment tonight that is going to cause people to leave their corners. The number of undecided voters is relatively small. If you were a conservative watching that, inclined to support President Trump, you heard a good case for that. The best case that Pence could make, he made. And if you're inclined to support Biden, you heard a good case for that.
I'm inclined to write in
it's
Santa
sort
Claus.
of being considered a draw.
James, you talked about Kamala Harris not answering.
If you're
the
inclined to
question
vote
about
for
court
Joe
packing. Let's go
Jurgensen,
back
you're
in
probably
time a
out getting a
little bit and
taco.
find that. Nobody answered any questions in that string.
Yes.
And so there was some irony there because Mike Pence was very critical of her. He was asked a question about President Trump's health care plan, and instead he talked a lot about abortion, James. So we were already in a string of topics.
That's
that
it. When you're
were
sick, we're
driven
aborting
by
you.
the candidates, not by the moderator.
He also didn't answer the question about abortion. So you're absolutely right. He ducked. Susan Page said specifically, how are you going to cover people with pre-existing conditions? And she said, we have a plan. They don't have a plan. On abortion, it was striking because Mike Pence has really fashioned himself in the past as a social conservative warrior. And he's been outspoken that Roe v. Wade was wrongly decided, that he is strongly against abortion. But we've seen this in some of the Senate debates actually in the last 2 weeks where Amy Coney Barrett is very clear. She signed a newspaper ad a little over a decade ago saying she was opposed to Roe. She is on the circuit court been very clearly against that. And so Pence,
Man, I
notably,
wish the
even as
iPod
a
worked
reporter
better. I
for
feel
life,
very
he
dumb
declined
that when I was
to
doing this,
do
like,
if he was governor,
this is
that
obviously not where
Roe
his
doesn't
ear is
overturn
because his nose is here.
decisions that are left to the state. This is a consequential.
Also, it's very
issue,
weird how
obviously,
Kamala now has
and it
3
comes
arms, but if we
as
ignore
our
that,
polling
whatever.
shows that there's likely to be a historic gender gap in this election, with in our poll women favoring Vice President Biden over President Trump by about 30 points.
Well, President Trump once bragged about how good Mike Pence was at talking when he was answering reporters' question. And deflection was on display tonight. Watch how Vice
I love
President Pence
talking.
handles a straightforward question.
I have to
on
sneeze.
The environment from moderator Susan Page.
Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
Maybe. Wait.
As I said, Susan,
Got it.
changing. We follow the science. But once again,
Yeah, that's
Harris,
Chris Wallace poking up from under the
denying
debate to be
the
like,
fact that they're gonna raise
oh, your
taxes.
2 minutes are, oh, okay.
Biden said
It's fine.
twice in the debate last week. On day one, he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Wait, no. Cut back to both of them.
Quite the
Oh.
pivot there from the vice president.
Quite the pivot. And
Do
we
they
saw
line
it
up with you
night
at all?
long, and we also saw it back in
Oh, wait.
2016 when he debated
Uh-oh.
then the Democratic
Uh-oh.
nominee for vice president.
Uh-oh. Wait, is it gone?
He can deflect. He
Uh-oh.
does it well, and he comes across as he's downplaying issues, whether they be very controversial or just simple matters. He comes across
Where-
and knows also that body language thing of coming across to the camera.
I don't know where the
making
drawing
it's a
is.
non-issue. And that's really what the Trump campaign probably
I think it
wanted
might
out
have
of
gotten
tonight.
deleted.
This is what he's
It's-
often dispatched.
I'm
to
moving
do.
the window
So
around
he
and I
also
don't
has
see
this
any.
history as a broadcaster, a
no, I
TV
don't see anything.
broadcaster and a radio broadcaster.
Well.
So he's very aware of the camera, and he came with his
So much for
agenda
that.
talking points, as did Senator Harris. But that's what we saw.
We'll never have
answering
the presidential
question,
bat.
Certainly has precedent in from his other debates.
Philip, we didn't see an answer to that question from Vice President Pence. I mean, we didn't get clarity on that topic as well as many others.
God, this guy's
Does
eyebrows
that
are like
hurt
Doom
him,
Guy.
Or is it considered to be a success because he was able to bring the topics back to what he wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, the question of
Yeah, no one's talking about the fly.
this election cycle. I mean, we've seen nothing hurt Trump. We've seen nothing hurt Biden. We've seen nothing hurt Pence or Harris. So
No.
I mean, the default assumption should be it's not going to hurt anything. You know, what we saw from Pence was really a very traditional sort of dishonest politician. And he was frequently saying
God,
things that weren't
stop
true.
moving.
I mean, the very first thing he said.
No,
was that
you're ruining it.
Impose this ban on travel from China, which he didn't.
It doesn't even look like a
You know,
man.
it's very well established. But he did it in a way that we're all pretty familiar with after a few decades of watching politics, those of us who had the
See, now you moved. It's gonna look like this now.
Politics. So yeah, I mean, we saw Vice President Pence outlining these sort of standard slippery rhetoric that we are used to politicians saying. We saw Harris do some of that too, for example, on the question of court packing. But you know, in Pence, this really is Pence's forte, is his ability to reframe things back in the way that he wants to have them be. You know, he's sort of spent the past 3 years serving as a translator to traditional DC of the outbursts that President Trump has offered, and it really showed tonight that he's good at that. I don't think it really makes any difference.
Well, let's go to Salt Lake City now, where political reporter Joyce Coe is outside of the debate hall. So Joyce,
Football.
there were a number of moments that were immediately fact-checked tonight by the Washington Post and others looking over what the candidates were saying. What stood out to you?
Don't move.
Well, I think, Libby, going into
No.
the role of the vice president and the significance
God,
of that was on the top of many minds, especially with the president testing positive for coronavirus, battling the virus as we speak, and seeing a growing number of White House officials as well as people surrounding the White House testing positive for the coronavirus. Mike Pence was asked about that during tonight's debate.
Man, I wish I could make
The
my hair do this
moderator
reliably.
asking him straight on, have you had these conversations with the president about what that plan would be if the president were
Also,
to
if
become
anyone's looking for, like, a
in his role? And
trial
Pence, not only
sketch
pivoted
artist,
from that conversation,
I work on
talking about
spec.
the coronavirus vaccine and promising millions
Please hire
of
me,
vaccines.
thank you.
But take a listen to what he had to say when he made one particularly peculiar comparison with the H1N1 virus. Take a listen.
I can't
You
believe.
do know what failure looks like.
Oh, it's like she's still there.
It was 2000.
Sucked out her soul.
The swine flu arrived in the United States.
This is the stupidest
Thankfully, it
comparison.
ended up not being as lethal
And I got swine
as
flu.
the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu.
Wow, how
If the
many of
swine
them
flu
died?
was
Oh,
lethal
wait.
as the
Wait, not
coronavirus
close to
in
200?
2009, when Joe
Oh.
Biden was vice president, we would have lost
Yeah,
2
I did.
million American lives.
I was in high school. I
Now,
got
this
sent to
was
the
an
emergency
attempt to
room
draw the
after a few days
comparison
at like
that
a
if Joe
102,
Biden
103
were
degree
to be
fever.
in, President Trump's position.
wasn't fun.
with
It
the
sucked.
coronavirus, that he would not do well in terms of containing the virus, and that is certainly not supported by any evidence.
Well, it
but it's
still lines
also an
up,
odd
so.
comparison because at the time,
Nailed
President
it.
Obama and Vice President Biden were polling highly and positively at the time. And it's interesting because Obama declared H1N1 a public health emergency before any deaths were recorded as far as Americans go in the United States, Obama declaring that a national emergency. In addition, the swine flu, as you heard the vice president say, was not nearly as lethal as the coronavirus is, comparative to the 60 million infections that he brought up. 7.5 million Americans have contracted the coronavirus, and of that, more than 211,000 people have died. Libby?
Joyce Coe reporting live from Salt Lake City. Thank you so much, Joyce. This is a special report from the Washington Post. Stay with us.
As business moves forward,
Damn it!
changing the way things get done,
No, I don't want. You're not her.
and keep our customers happy. You can rely on AT&T.
You could rely on this lady.
Connected.
This is the Washington Post special coverage.
Why did you
of the
even have a
2020
commercial?
Vice presidential debate of the 2020 campaign. I'm Libby Casey, joining you tonight from our newsroom in Washington, D.C. And with me, Capitol Hill reporter Rhonda Colvin, national political reporter James Homan, and national correspondent Philip Baum. Mike Pence said numerous times, twice, specifically on this one thing about facts. You're entitled to your opinion, but not your facts. James, let's start with you. There's a lot of irony there. The Washington Post has shown that President Trump has said or written more than 20,000 incorrect, misleading, or false things during his time in office.
Yeah, there was certainly a shamelessness to that. And it was striking because both candidates, Libby, used words like facts, truth, reality a lot. I was even struck, when Kamala Harris was being evasive on the question of, will you pack the court, she said in 1864, when a Supreme Court justice died 20-some days before the election, Honest Abe decided he wanted to do the right thing. Honest Abe.
Moving.
And there was this kind of, this hard leaning in on honesty. And
Abe's.
Didn't give an inch when they were talking about the coronavirus. He said, we've always been honest. That's obviously not true. Senator Harris mentioned the book by Bob Woodward in which the president said on tape that he was intentionally downplaying the severity of the virus. But it is a recognition that the president has a credibility gap, and Pence is seen as more credible than Trump, but not by that much. But that is an effort to kind of be perceived as trustworthy, because that is an important attribute, especially amid the cascade of crises we face right now.
Which ones? What do you?
The
No.
conversation, writer for The Fix, Eugene, covers identity and politics.
Where my face?
Eugene, let's talk about the dynamic between these two candidates.
Oh, I forgot the
Mike
eyebrow.
Pence
Well,
does
I
not
have to wait for him to
Donald
come
Trump.
back.
He wasn't yelling. He wasn't in that bullying manner trying to dominate the conversation. But he would not listen to Susan Page, the moderator, when his time was up. And he had to be asked repeatedly to stop talking. There was this thank you, Vice President.
Well, he was
thank
a
you,
good
Vice
talker.
President, heard over and over again. Her way of trying to politely get him to abide by the rules.
So Mike Pence did essentially end up dominating the conversation, but in a way that's quite different from the way that President Trump did, as you noted. But
I want that other guy to come
also is
back so I
that
can
women
line him up.
voters appeared to notice both, based on text conversations I had and what we also saw on social media. And what they saw was someone who would not allow one of their colleagues, one of their peers, to get her point across very clearly. And that's going to be a real problem for Mike Pence and Donald Trump even, because they are struggling with women voters. And you can certainly count on the Biden-Harris campaign to point this out and post on
Are these
social
where the
media
lips
and
were in that
commercials,
guy's drawing? I don't even
and other
remember.
ads meant to connect with women voters who feel unheard in this administration and are looking to leaders who will entertain their point of view.
Rhonda Colvin, let's go to you on how Senator Harris dealt with that. I mean, she was repeatedly seeing her opponent be sort of given extra time by default, just
Give him,
because
like,
he would
Donkey
not
Kong teeth.
stop talking. And the moderator seemed at a loss as to what to do. So let's talk about how Kamala Harris responded to that and tried to sort of take her
I
own
hope they bring him
point.
back. Also, the sign now just
Well,
says,
I think she might have
in case
been
anyone
prepared for
noticed, but probably
interruptions
not.
just by watching last week's debate. So I think she came in ready, knowing she might
Just use one
handle
feature
it.
from everyone.
And, she had a line where she kept saying, "I'm
Man, this
speaking,"
really just makes
when
his
he did try
face
to
seem
interject.
very
And
large.
two,
I guess
again,
it was.
created optics that might put Vice President Pence in a bad light, looking like he's just picking up where President Trump left off last week as an interrupter. So I think she was ready to handle expected interruptions and also expected downplay of the facts.
James Homan, Susan Page had a tough job in trying to get the Vice President of the United States to abide
Yes!
by the rules and to stop talking. But I want you to give us a sense of
Come on.
what it means to the American public, to the voter who's out there trying to watch this and glean something useful from this conversation. What the result is if the moderator could not or would not get one of the candidates to stop talking.
Oh no, the face.
You know, it's one of those things where it's easy to dismiss that as process, and that's, you know, inside baseball. But it's
Don't
not.
tilt your head.
People won't remember what you say.
They'll remember
They
the
will
fly.
remember how it made you feel, how it made them feel.
Gassy.
And obviously Mike Pence knows that, championship high school debater.
I messed these up.
Kind of mean, but say it with a smile on his face, like when he attacked Joe Biden for plagiarism in 1987. But I do think because of the gender dynamic, because there's two women on stage and this man, especially on the heels of President Trump, that it is just glaring, and it's not like a normal politician evading a question. It looks like he is being disrespectful and not listening. And just saying what he wants to say and trying to dominate.
Wow, it's almost like it was a political
The question is,
debate.
will there be consequences for that? And you know, it does seem from the polling that we've now seen, 4 or 5 public polls.
And just look at how much effort I'm putting in this
voters did
two-tone
really dislike
beard.
when Trump did that last week, and a few percentage points of the American electorate punished him for it. I'm not sure that that will be the same here because it's the vice presidential debate, but I do think it will help cement a lot of the perceptions that exist out there, and it also makes it harder to turn the tide in an election where a lot of people feel like Trump has been very rude and flip, and I don't think Pence helped in that regard.
You know, James, it seemed early on that the vice president just talked over Susan Page when she was trying to get him to stop, and he sort of learned the lesson that he could keep going, and so then we saw that pattern repeat throughout the night. That was established early on.
Yeah, and it really is, you know, that it's like, you know, if you don't set, I've moderated debates,
Oh, it's perfect.
debates, and it's hard, and you have to set the ground rules early, because if you don't, if you know, if someone thinks that they can sort of get away with it, and then what happens is you get in this position where candidates want equal time. There is a fairness to it. As a moderator, you want to give equal time, and so then you're kind of in this hard spot where Pence kept talking and talking and talking, so now you want to let Harris have more time to talk, but then Pence is frustrated that Harris got more time, and so then that's how debates can quickly
I can't make
get
his mouth
out of
open and
control,
shut,
even
sorry.
though there's sort of a general desire by the candidates to stay within the parameters. So it's a very hard job, but it's especially hard. We should note, you know, Susan Page is the moderator, the only moderator of the 4 with a print background. She writes for USA Today.
That's right, she's
The
changed
other
an
3
inkjet
moderators, Chris
cartridge.
Wallace obviously has been on TV for decades. His dad was Mike Wallace. Steve Scully from C-SPAN has been around for forever.
Just
and then,
stop moving.
We're also getting others that have
Quit
TV
being
experience.
animated.
So I think that's part of the challenge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kristen Welker, the last
Kristen
moderator.
Welker, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, of course, if we see these next.
Your beard is
debates go
scratchy.
on schedule, James, which is still a question
Thank
mark
you for
because the
saying
president has coronavirus.
You're right,
And,
absolutely.
God.
you know, I want to go to Philip for.
Also,
what is the
FYI, like,
answer
drawing in this
the
program
president
has a
is still
sizable
left during
delay.
getting to the away from the questions that the candidates did. We had some really important topics not thoroughly get fleshed out.
It's hard to
One of them
explain, but
was about whether or not the candidates on both
it
sides
reminds
had
me of like an old
conversations
Java
with
applet
the person
to
who was
draw
top of the
on.
ticket, about what would happen if they
That
got
just,
sick
like,
or, God
hitches
forbid, something happened.
and
Another one that
duplicate
we
it for
didn't get a lot of
side-by-side
clarity on
screens.
From Mike Pence was about a peaceful transfer of power. If
No, it only lets you
Trump Pence
duplicate the
tickets
fact that
loses
it's
the
a
election.
whiteboard object. It doesn't let you
I mean,
duplicate the contents,
it's
sorry.
really strange to be a sitting vice president. The answer to a question which
Oh, God,
never
how
even
does this
come
guy
up
make
in
his
the
head look
debate because it would be
small?
considered the
How do I
softest of
even-
softballs, you know, like a wiffle ball made out of foam. I mean, it's just, of course, there would be a peaceful transition of power. I mean, it even has to be asked. As that.
Why doesn't
But
it
the
scale his head
the vice
up?
president
Oh
can
no,
simply say,
it's
"Yeah, of
peeking
course,
out.
Move on," because he knows that would
It
frustrate
doesn't-
President
it
Trump,
doesn't
and he knows
scale.
he needs to,
It just
offer up
moves.
rhetoric about how they're worried about the same.
Or it like briefly scales. If you see there's like a brief frame and then it clicks back into its thing.
In an effort to try and fight back against the counting of
Oops.
ballots, which is necessarily going to follow election day. You know, there's this whole structure, this whole lattice.
Hey,
work
it's me, the
that he
Washington
has to
Post
respect
mascot.
and maintain out of deference to his boss, which is just nonsensical. I mean, the easy
What?
answer there is yes, of course.
I'm over here
but
now.
He can't do that because he is a traditional politician who is both trying to navigate his his traditional politician instincts to try and win votes and appeal to people. At the same time, he knows he can't buck his boss.
Yes,
He can't
that's what
say
I was
that
going to say.
Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, the next day he'll pull a Jeff Sessions on and start tweeting about what a bum Mike Pence is. I mean, so it's this really, really weird scenario he's in. But the upshot is the sitting vice president of the United States can't simply say, of course we ensure peaceful transition of power.
Nice
That's
ceiling.
what makes people so nervous.
Oh, you vacuumed recently. I like it. Oh, hey, who are you?
Who's
What's
not
up?
on the ballot, but is still popular among many Americans, Barack Obama.
Uh-huh.
Let's watch how Kamala Harris uses
Heard of him?
interruption to bring the conversation to one of President Obama.
Oh, hi, viewers
and
at home.
his former VP Joe Biden's signature legislative issues.
Whoa,
You have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of.
Yes, I remember this
trying to get
happening
rid of the
2 seconds
Affordable
ago.
Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
And it's
but we need to
important.
give Vice President.
I'd just like he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish.
Wow, nice shoulder.
If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer.
Yay,
they're coming
Pepto-Bismol.
for
Oh,
you.
wait.
If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition,
Thank you. Thank
they're
you, Senator
coming
Harris.
for you. If you are under the age of 26.
Senator, the question was not, do you love people with pre-existing conditions?
Let's go to Eugene Scott for a reaction to that clip. Eugene.
You're not Eugene Scott, but you'll
I think
do.
one of the things that Senator Harris wanted to communicate to
Uh.
voters was that the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, that they overwhelmingly.
Oh, God, that's really creepy.
Is in jeopardy under
When you take the
a Trump
background
administration
off.
moving forward. If you have a pre-existing condition, including something like COVID, which a million Americans have been affected by, at least, that this could be at risk and in jeopardy. And the courts right now are considering, as we know,
Man, I cannot get this
looking at
to
laws
skew.
to determine whether or not it is constitutional, the pre-existing condition law that is attached to the Affordable Care Act.
How is it wearing my face?
Inconsistent both Pence and Harris seem to be, or should I say, in disagreement on what it is exactly the current administration is doing when it comes to Affordable Care Act and what the Biden administration could do if given the chance to lead the country.
Oh no, I've had too many face
Wonderful.
transplant
Then
drugs.
let's
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
We
whoa,
don't know
whoa.
yet what will happen next week. Of course, there is a debate on Tuesday.
Oh,
the
God,
presidential
why?
nominees. But
Why?
we don't know
Stop
because
having them. No
President
one
Trump
cares
has
anymore.
coronavirus, and Biden has said he will go and debate Trump if Trump is doing well, and the experts and health officials surrounding Trump say he's okay and has a clean bill of health. But it's interesting to look at this from the standpoint of Miami, where this.
I'm going back to the newsroom.
Yesterday,
Commissary, do you want me to pick you up some peanut butter crackers?
We don't really know where we're going from
Okay,
here,
I'll just-
and much
I'll
can
just go myself
transpire, between the next
It's
few
a bad
days,
time.
but
I got it.
We'll of course be watching to see what happens. For these two candidates that we saw tonight, I think, as we've said earlier, it may
door's
not
locked.
move
Okay,
the needle
I'm
much
trying to-
in terms of
I
getting
just
the
wanna-
attention of anyone who's
Hello?
undecided
Hey, could
or changing or
someone-
flipping, votes or
someone unlock the
decisions.
door? I
think
can't.
both could walk away saying that they
just trying to
did what
see,
they were
just
supposed to do.
And one thing, Rhonda, the next debate is
No, it's
scheduled
locked.
for
I know
Thursday
you're
night.
live. Just
Thursday, yes.
come on, just
Yes,
open,
and they
please.
keep changing the night of the week, so.
And we've got a Supreme Court
Actually, I didn't
hearing
want to
as
tell
well
you,
on
but
the
I have
bill,
to
which
use
is
the
probably what
bathroom.
I'm thinking
Please.
about.
That's
Unlock
right.
the
So
men's
next
room.
Thursday night is the next scheduled presidential debate. But as Rhonda just mentioned, on
No, really.
Monday, we do expect to be here.
I'm going to
Rhonda,
pee everywhere.
Reporting live on the Supreme Court confirmation process. And Rhonda, final thoughts from you on how that plays into this.
Well, it was a key issue.
Do
as
you
we
have the
forecasted
bathroom key?
in the pre-show today, and we saw Kamala
Hello?
Harris be presented with a question.
maybe
about
I'll check the
second
other one.
So this is another issue, just like the coronavirus, that's hanging over this election.
where?
So we know that the Senate Judiciary Committee, headed by Lindsey Graham, will start up at 9
Where's the
a.m.
keys?
on Monday morning with the hearing process.
Hey, do you know where the key?
Hoping
Oh,
to
sorry,
wrap it
you're.
up
By
by Thursday,
I'll just.
but there are two
I'll just
senators
go over
on
here
that committee
and,
who are sick with the coronavirus.
keys over here?
So the vote to get that
On the
hearing
ceiling?
and Amy Coney Barrett out of committee
No,
on the Senate floor
God, I
is still
just
a
don't
little
know where to
bit
go.
close.
All right, Rhonda, well, you and I may be in for a long day next Thursday as we cover both that and the next presidential debate.
Oh.
Thank you so much to Rhonda.
That's right.
As well
That's-
as to
this
Eugene
one's still
Scott,
locked.
to
Hey,
Philip Bump, and to James Homan. Appreciate
Where my
you being
face?
with us tonight. Well, we are less than 4 weeks away
No.
to Election Day, and as we just heard, starting Monday, The Senate starts these Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett. So please subscribe to the Washington Post.
Wow, I thought that was starting to
notifications
play
about our live
Gangster's Paradise, and I was
broadcasts,
very excited
heads
for a
up
brief
about
minute.
breaking news as it happens. We'll be here live starting next week for the
I
committee
will
hearings
always
Monday
be
morning.
here.
We'll
Ha,
be here
ha,
at
ha,
8:30 in advance of the committee gaveling in. I'm Libby Casey. We'll see you then. Have a good night.
Are you Louis C.K.? What? Utah. Isn't it beautiful? Nothing makes me feel more civic pride than Kingsbury Hall? Yes, that's the one that I meant. Oh look, it's 2020, and we're in Utah. It must be the debate. Here on the... Oh, it doesn't say Washington Post anymore. Well, guess it's my show. Wish I remembered what my name was, but, you know. It's 2020 for you. Is this... No, that's still technically live, apparently. I'm just gonna go over here. Don't mind me. Oh, it's so much creepier. Oh god, it's like if they took Mr. Popo and gave him facial hair. Every time I bring him back over, I forget he even has facial features. Wow, 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 wow. Psst. He's dead. He's gone. He's not coming back. And neither am I. Bye!